And then a scene happens where the president of Mick USA comes down with all of her troops, and they're all like, don't kill him. And even Graves is like, do not. Even the bad guy is like, guys, listen, I know I'm the bad guy here, but like, do not attack that thing. Even then, even in the face of everybody, the president of Mick USA says, fire. And I'm like, I fucking hate you. She proves time and time again that she is a righteous fucking cunt. Son of a bitch.
The thing is, what if the twist was she was the bad guy the whole time?
Jesus Christ.
I think.
Oh God. So I wanna take from here to talk about the scene that's coming up. Yeah, so they all fire upon Credence, and naturally the thing explodes and dies. Graves kind of gets up there in the little platform where he's at, and he's just sort of like baffled. And even Newt has that face of like, yeah, did you just do that? Really? You killed it.
You're sure?
That was a person.
Well, Newt is like heartbroken.
And that's what makes this scene so interesting.
What was done here tonight was not right.
He was responsible for the death of a no-match. He risked the exposure of our community. He has broken one of our most sacred laws.
A law that has us scuttling like rats in the gutter.
And so, yeah, Graves is like, I'm done.
A law that demands that we conceal our true nature. A law that directs those under its dominion to cower in fear lest we risk discovery.
He says that he makes like a big kind of speech about who are these laws really for.
Who does this law protect? Us? Or them?
As he's doing the speech, by the way, Newt sees a tiny wisp of Obscurus flying away to give you the idea that maybe Credence did survive, but probably not. I think that's Newt just being really hopeful.
I'm Newt.
Well, it's worth saying that it's worth saying, although I agree with you, Graves didn't want Credence to die. The speech he's giving, well, it sounds really inspirational, is really saying, this is bad because this is a magical child.
Yeah.
Like, they shouldn't be allowed to treat us this way.
Yeah, no. Yeah. So then it hits this moment where they're kind of like, for some reason, they just attack him. And
I think it's because...
No, I think, doesn't he attack them?
No. Huh. I think he just kind of wants to go. I think he even says, like, I'm done. I'm going to leave Mick USA. I'm resigning as an Auror. And then the president's like, take his wand. And then they just start firing on him. And
I think
I'm
it's
like,
because he said like all that stuff, and you're like,
so he has polarizing political opinions. Let's kill him.
Does this surprise you from this president?
No, but it shouldn't be a thing. No, but that's the issue, though. Is that okay? So this guy is like, you know what? That was traumatizing. I'm gonna.
Okay.
No, let me say this.
All right.
He had a traumatizing experience. He did not want this person to be killed, and he was killed in front of him. Then you know what? He decides to quit. And you know what? He quits like anyone would quit, in fashion. He makes a whole big speech like, you know what? Fuck the company. Fuck the man. I'm done. And then he leaves. And then because he has a different political opinion, the president decides to kill him.
Sal hates the president of Mick USA so much, he is willing to defend the villain of this film.
Yes.
The thing is that that's not how I took it. I saw him like imagine this agent of the CIA, and he's in the White House, and the president's like sitting at this table having dinner, and then he gives this speech about how he quits, and then proceeds to run towards the president with a very intimidating face. It looks like he's going to try to kill the president. Like, that's how I took it.
No, I saw him as leaving because that was where the exit was. And then Newt from behind shoots a little thing with some cool animalness. He hits the ground, his arms are tied, and then... So here's this scene.
Here we go.
So he does a spell. I think it's like Revelio whatever bullshit. And his hair starts to kind of go white, and his face starts to change. And then all of a sudden, Colin Farrell is now Johnny Depp.
I did not expect this.
And I'm like, who is that? I'm sitting here and I'm like, I didn't really know Johnny Depp was in this movie, and I haven't seen Johnny Depp in this film before, and I didn't. Who is this character? I don't know who this character's supposed to be.
I had the exact same reaction, like it was happening. And I'm not going to say I'm like a Harry Potter genius, but I know many things about Harry Potter. And like we were sitting there, and it was like Johnny's face came out, and I was like, okay.
Okay.
What?
And then it's revealed that the whole time Graves was actually Grindelwald. Yes, you heard me right. The guy they talked about in the first 2 minutes of the movie, and almost never again in the entirety of the film.
They didn't even have an exposition scene where, like, Jacob reads a newspaper in the case and he's like, Grindelwald, who's that? He's this very bad man, and let's hope we never run into him. But they don't have that. And that's why I have to believe that the newspaper stuff in the beginning was them. Well, because Sal, even you said you missed the bit where you see the back of Grindelwald's head and he just kills like 5 guys. And if you didn't have that, I just had that, and even I felt disappointed that there was no build-up to him.
Yeah.
I figured it out. As soon as I saw the Deathly Hallows thing, I was like, okay, so he's working for Grindelwald. And then it was getting there, I'm like, they're doing it. Oh, what?
I was very confused because, like, again, I'm not a big Harry Potter person. I don't really know who Grindelwald is. So Harry Potter has like a trope where every film there's like a twist villain. It's like a mystery. Let's compare this to Sorcerer's Stone. The whole film kind of builds up to the fact that Voldemort might be here.
Yes.
You get the idea that Voldemort and Harry have a connection. Voldemort killed Harry's parents. Voldemort tried to kill Harry. Because of this, Harry has a scar on his face. And then throughout the film, it's more built up, but there's the mirror scene where he sees his parents, and he doesn't have his parents because Voldemort killed them. He's in the woods. He sees the thing eating out of the unicorn to do long life. It could be Voldemort. So at the end, when you find out that Voldemort's living in the back of Quirrell's head, you're like...
That's terrifying.
You're like, oh my god. But then you parallel that to Fantastic Beasts, and Newt figures out that it's Grindelwald, and he kind of has this reaction of like, oh yeah, it's Grindelwald.
Like, oh yeah, he's a guy. Take him away. And then he's like...
he's just gone.
No, but he says some really vague thing that I forget what he exactly says, but it's like, what?
Will we die just a little?
What in the goddamn hell are you talking about?
Apparently he is contracted for 2 more films, but I gotta say, this is one time where, because of the way the movie was made, not knowing stuff about the cast and how the film was, like spoilers basically, it hurts. Because I was like, Johnny, what the? And before I could process it, he was off screen. And I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah, because
like,
he's there for like 10 seconds.
How bad could it have been? Like, honestly, rewrite this, where you have, you don't even change the opening with the newspaper. Like, you can keep that.
Like, fuck it, just whatever.
Just have Graves, get away. And then he, kneels before his master and says, I tried to obtain the Obscurus for you, Lord Grindelwald. And he's like, that's all right. Our plans are unaltered. We proceed forward. And then just the movie. And just have that even, at the very end of the movie. I don't care. It's sequel baiting, but at least Grindelwald is established as just being this guy's boss. And even if you don't know who he is, it's like, oh, I didn't have to figure that out,
Kill!
Hey, look, just because I know doesn't mean everyone knows, especially if they're just watching the movies. And Grindelwald was mentioned for 2 minutes in one of the movies,
Yeah, apparently he was in one of the actual Harry Potter films as an old man. I didn't even know that.
Well, there's this brief scene in, I believe it's part 1 of Deathly Hallows.
Yeah.
Where Voldemort is harassing him for the location of the Elder Wand or whatever.
Tell me, Grindelwald, tell me where it is. Tell me who possesses it.
But that's hardly anything. They don't even
No.
They don't even mention he and Albus Dumbledore were friends when they were children. I say friends, it was maybe a bit more.
Yeah.
But
oh shit, I'm sorry. Sorry for what? Our daddy taught us not to be ashamed of our dicks, especially since they're such good size and all.
Then, like, Grindelwald went off the deep end and became this evil wizard. And this is talked about extensively in the books, but it wasn't really relevant for Deathly Hallows, so I understand why they just sort of skimmed over in the movie. The problem is that they want to use Grindelwald as this, like, big, like, he's the Voldemort of this series.
Mm-hmm.
But then they're like, we'll mention him twice, and we'll sound really scared when we do.
I will not be lectured by the man who let Gellert Grindelwald slip through his fingers. They think this is related to Grindelwald's attacks in Europe.
I was there. This is a beast.
And that's all we need.
Yeah, it's
I want to go back to Sorcerer's Stone and cut out all the dialogue about Voldemort. Just have the ending happen.
Yeah, and that's what it feels like, because it feels like they mentioned Grindelwald in the beginning, and I'm like, okay, it's going to be like the main bad guy of the movie. Has Newt and Grindelwald had an encounter before? Like, is there going to be a scene?
That would have been cool. Like, that would have been nice, a flashback. Listen, you could have had Johnny Depp in a flashback fighting Newt, and then you're like, oh, shit. And then when he turns into Johnny Depp at the end, it'd been like, oh, at least he kind of set it up, And,
like, maybe, like, the reason why Newt went off to go, like, adventure and just find animals and have fun is because he had an encounter with Grindelwald. I don't know. It's like anything more than what they did, which was nothing. Everyone knows who Grindelwald is, so no one talks about him. Well, Jacob doesn't know, so why didn't he ask? That's literally one of his jobs in this film is to ask the questions that we're asking. Who was Grindelwald?
And it doesn't make sense to me because the Harry Potter films usually are really good at the mysteries. They set shit up that you can guess. Like, the films that's debatable because of what they decide to include or not.
Yeah.
But in the books, when Rowling sets something up, there's a reason for introducing this random little thing she throws in.
I don't know. It happened and I agree. Like, you would think that they would have done more with it. It's the sloppiest thing in the whole movie, like, by and far.
Yeah.
By and large. Even if you take into account the fact that Fantastic Beasts is supposed to, like, be a partner to the Harry Potter books, you would think that JK would be like, oh yeah, there's probably going to be plenty of people who, like, just want to watch a movie and they don't know. I don't know. Maybe that's just a very American thing to do, but you'd think that she would just, like, slip in a little thing here or there. It's so bizarre.
It's weird
that she didn't think of it.
We're not asking for, like, complex, like, writing here. We're just, like, throwing a monologue. It would have taken, like, 2 minutes of screen time.
Yeah,
the movie was already over 2 hours.
And you're like, did the people who were, like, reviewing the screenplay, were they just like, don't say it, she'll feel bad, it's her first screenplay? Or were they just not want to, like, make J.K. Rowling upset? Or were they like, hey, you should mention this? And she was like, no, it is a mystery. And they didn't want to be like, that is not what a mystery is.
Yeah, it's not a twist if it's just, like, dumb and out of nowhere.
Yeah. It could be that she was focusing so heavily on the Credence twist that she was like, that other thing. They'll still be like, whoa, Credence. So it won't matter.
Here's another idea. What if the Grindelwald twist was never supposed to be there? Graves was just supposed to be the main bad guy, and it was a simple story. But they said, JK, this is a series. We need a franchise. We need this to go as long as the Harry Potter series. And she's like, well, I better, they're like, you need us to introduce a big threat so that the next movie, there'll be suspense over what's going to happen. And she's like, well, I guess I'll throw in the big bad guy that time. I definitely think it's the world we live in. We need the franchise.
When you do say that, it does actually, it feels like that shouldn't have been a twist, because after that scene, when they leave the area, they never talk about Grindelwald ever again.
Mm-hmm.
If you cut out the opening and then cut out his transformation and just had him on his knees, like you cut and then he's just getting taken away, that would change nothing.
It would actually change nothing.
Nothing.
It would actually kind of make the setup for Grindelwald in a future movie even better, because then you're like, oh yeah, this is like the person that people thought Newt was working with whenever they decided to kill him.
Upon rewatch, after you watch like the 2 or 3 films that come after, you're like, oh my god, they were talking about him in the first fucking movie and I barely even realized.
It could have been a good thing, and then it wasn't.
Oh. Yeah.